And welcome, Andrew the Apostate. How are you doing today?
All things considered, not too bad.
All things considered. Yeah, that's about all we can hope for these days, I feel like, I see for the listeners at home, I'm doing some audio so we could talk, but or doing some video so we could talk, but this is audio. But I do see you're wearing a Green Day shirt, is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. Have you seen them live recently?
I have not.
Okay.
Unfortunately, all my concert experiences have only been Christian rock. So
Oh,
yeah.
really? Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got to see Green Day last year. Because my one of my kids is a big fan, and it prompted her to learn how to play bass guitar and stuff like that. So we had to go, right? And it was a blast. They put on a fantastic show. You have just dropped a bomb on me, though. You don't drop Christian rock, Christian metal, anything like that. You don't say that in front of me because I'm going to ask some. Like what have you been into? And I hope maybe I'll know some of them, but we'll see. Uh,
Um, so the bands I got into in high school were Demon Hunter,
yeah, yeah.
Skillet.
Mm-hmm.
Skillet was pretty much my favorite for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
Red, Flyleaf. Pretty
Okay.
much like I've always been a bit of a metalhead, but
Yeah.
whenever I started getting serious about my Christian faith in high school, that's whenever I discovered, oh, there's Christian rock.
Mm-hmm.
I just started listening to pretty much everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it's funny you say Demon Hunter because they are coming to they're about 45 minutes away at a college town. Here it's on in October, and I was debating whether or not to go see them. Yes, even though they're a Christian band and I'm no longer a Christian, I still listen to a lot of Christian metal back in the older days. I'm older than you. Bands like, ever heard of Deliverance?
I have not heard of Deliverance.
Okay,
No.
see, I've already done it. And then like I saw an ad today for this band that I was into back then called Living Sacrifice. They're out of Arkansas and they're playing like in September. And I was like, man, do I want to make the 4 hour drive just to go see Living Sacrifice again? But maybe.
Hey,
So yeah. So did you well, we'll get into it, I guess. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your backstory, and then
yeah.
let's remember to come back around whenever you get to the music part, because I wonder if we share a similar prohibition on secular music that was kind of instilled on us by how we grew up. But yeah, tell me about you and how you got started.
Yeah, absolutely. So my Christian background is a little eclectic. My family were Church of Christ,
Hmm.
um, and that was the church that I was dedicated into as a baby. But
Right.
whenever I was 3, um, they started going to a Southern Baptist church
Okay.
because my father went to jail,
Oh.
and uh, we can put a pin in that, and we'll come back to why,
Okay.
because that's yeah.
Yeah.
But the um, chaplain of the jail was the pastor of this church, and
Hmm.
he would like spring my dad from jail and bring him to that church. So
Yeah.
my family just went there so that we could see him. Um, then whenever he got out, we went back to a Christian church, Church of Christ,
Hmm.
and stayed there for a little bit. Then left due to a church scandal. They had hired a pastor from out of state, told him, "Hey, we want to get young people into the congregation,"
Yeah.
and so he introduced contemporary Christian music
Hmm.
over and integrated it with hymnals. Um, and he was probably the first pastor that ever did like a form like progressive Christianity, more focusing on the love and
Hmm.
teachings of Jesus than the legalism.
Yeah.
And they did not like that. So they fired him in a closed uh, um, board session
Yeah.
and told the congregation that he resigned willingly.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
my uh, we only knew because my grandfather was part of the church leadership,
Yeah.
and they did not like that, so they stopped going to church completely for a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah, it kind of rubs you raw whenever you see stuff like that. My dad was a deacon.
Yeah,
It was a Southern Baptist church. So for the listeners at home that has no idea what a deacon is, it's just an elder in the church that's not more there for guidance than and assistance rather than like top level leadership, I would say.
yeah.
But yeah, he got a little frustrated for a while. He was always devout, but he kind of stepped aside. He got frustrated, oddly enough, by old people complaining about the music being too loud. Like all these drums and stuff, and I need to get back to the hymnals. So small town Southern Baptist church. Anyway,
Oh yeah, very common complaint in that
yeah, yeah,
demographic.
yes,
Um, but so we they stopped going to church for a while, and then I was in high school, and there was a teenage hangout club thing that was opened up in the town that I was living in.
okay.
And
Was it Christian or was it
it
just as
was
okay?
it was
So,
Christian, and they would book local Christian metal bands,
hmm,
like just mostly other teenagers or young adults that were getting into like making their own bands and stuff, and just have them play live.
right.
And it was a place to hang out. It's a very small town. There's the other hangout place was the
Hmm.
Walmart parking lot.
Oh, of course, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So,
good times right there. I
oh
mean,
yeah.
was it? Did you ever cruise Maine, like whatever the main street was, where you just drive back and forth endlessly all night long because that's what you had to do?
I did not. I
Okay.
lived even further out from the town
Oh,
in the
okay.
sticks. So it was like
Yeah.
15 minutes just for me to get
Oh,
to the
yeah.
town.
So you're not going to drive in just to drive around.
Oh
So
no,
yeah,
I
yeah,
was very much just a hermit. Like I
yeah.
would grab my friends, we'd go to the house, and we'd play D&D video games and stuff like
Hmm.
that all weekend. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's
You wait a minute. You played D&D?
oh yeah. Um, mo more
Wow, that's
other
how the devil
TT.
gets a foothold. You know that, right?
Oh yeah,
So,
that was an area of contention throughout my childhood because my dad got me into D&D
yeah.
because he played it like in the 70s, like during
Hmm.
the Satanic Panic. But
Yeah.
somehow, him, my uncle, and my um, cousin, like I don't know, I never talked to them about like how they got away with it.
Hmm.
But hey, yeah, he got me into D&D. Here recently, I've actually branched off from that to other tabletop role-playing games like
Hmm.
Vampire the Masquerade, Call of Cthulhu,
Hmm.
um, Pathfinder, stuff like that. And
Okay.
I, I'm DM
Yeah.
games for my friends online.
Dungeon Master.
Yes,
So yeah.
yeah, the TTRPG version, not the Whips and Chains version.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Right. Yes. Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with either.
No, not
But
at all.
yeah, I wasn't. It's not that I wasn't allowed. It was just kind of like I mean, again, I did grow up during the Satanic Panic, so there was just this thing, this discussion. It just never came up. Like for me, I didn't really know what it was. I just knew that like they were against it, right? And
Yeah.
so I didn't really share an interest in that. But whenever my kids, even before I stopped believing, whenever they were interested, I said, "Well, let me take another look at it." And I took another look at it, and I was like, "This is just fantasy stuff. Like
Hmm.
who cares? I mean, this is you know." How is
Oh,
this any different than watching a movie? Except you're actually involved. You're doing something, during a Dungeons and Dragons game. But
yeah,
are you familiar with the chick tracks?
I am.
Yeah.
One of my
Hmm.
friends actually, apparently, I don't know if it's associated with the Chick track or like the organization that produces that,
Yeah.
or is another Christian organization, but they made a movie based off of the D&D Chick Track. And one of my friends made me sit down and watch it, and oh my god,
Okay,
it
hold on.
is
I'm typing
something.
some notes real quick. Chick tracks, D&D. I can't wait to watch that.
Oh yeah, they of course didn't get anything about D&D correct about it,
Oh yeah, no
and
doubt. So,
they portrayed it as like this underground satanic cult,
mm-hmm.
and they had like almost like gambling dens
Oh
where you went and played the game, and it's like, oh, you just gotta, it's all about leveling up, and it's like,
yeah.
clearly you guys don't know what you're talking about, but go figure.
Oh, yeah, it's unfortunate that there's such a gap in dialogue about this stuff.
Mm,
They just kind of take it and run with it without doing the research,
yep,
or, which is really anymore just maybe asking a few questions. Maybe find someone that plays D&D and just say, "Tell me about this game. What is it?" And they'll tell you, and it's easy for you to figure out that it's just nerdy kids that are doing something interactive and not
yep,
necessarily a portal to hell.
yeah, no,
As the chick tracks, I think literally outlined that if you play this game, that it opens the door for demons and all sorts of stuff, and you see that now today. Not so much with D&D, but other things. I mean, it could be anything from a Monster Energy drink
yeah,
to the Sinners movie, which was fantastic.
ugh,
I'm really so thankful that so many Christians were online, like talking about how demonic it was, because that prompted me to go watch it.
yeah,
And I was like, oh, this was a great show, and it was, yeah. So thank you, Christians. I appreciate your outrage. It probably, that probably did more to help that movie become the box office smash that it was. So
yep,
good job, guys. Way
yeah,
to
more
way
than
to way to
likely.
kill it. So,
Uh, one thing that's funny is like, um, I saw this more whenever I was a Christian because I was more tapped into, you know, what they were talking about then. But they'll do the same thing about Christian movies.
mhm.
Like they'll latch on to something that uh doesn't fit with their brand of like
Right.
theology or whatever,
Yeah.
and they'll go bananas about that too.
Yeah. That's interesting. I'll have to pay attention to that. I'm sure I've seen it and probably just like poo pooed it as being like, oh, nuts being nuts. And we'll come back to that later. But
Yes.
anyway, so where are we at here? So you had a hiatus, and then
Yep.
what was going on that and shortly after that, like that got you back in?
So this Christian club thing,
Mm-hmm.
the director of it, her son was like we became friends, and he was the youth pastor of this church plant, and he invited me, and so I started going. I liked it, and I dragged my folks, and that became pretty much my home church for um, the next 10 plus years.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, basically was the last church that I was really a full member of.
Yeah. How big was it?
It was like when I first started going there, it was maybe 50 people.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I left, it was maybe 100.
Okay. Yeah. And since you and I share the background, we might end up speaking Christianese from time to time. So, if anyone doesn't know, a church plant is really, to put it in secular parlance, it's a startup. I
Yep.
mean, you've got maybe a little bit of cash to get things started, maybe rent a building, maybe rent some space inside of a school on a Sunday morning or something like that, or a strip mall. And, they're just trying to grow from there. And then, like any organization, it's you start small and work your way out from there. So okay, so you're there for 10 years, and then what? Does that get us through high school?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The 10 years kind of extends into adulthood, but
Okay.
and we'll definitely be coming back to that
Mm-hmm.
because well, anyway, while I was there, I felt the call, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
to go into ministry,
Yeah.
and I uh, ended up applying to a college local to Knoxville, Tennessee. Uh, it was formerly called Johnson Bible College,
Okay.
but it changed its name the year that I started going there to Johnson University.
Okay.
Um,
Sounds better, right? I mean,
Sounds better.
yeah.
Also, it's easier for missionaries that graduate there to get into countries that might not want missionaries.
Okay. Because of the name change?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was their logic is
Mm-hmm.
um, they I don't know if you've seen the new documentary or second season of Shiny Happy People.
I haven't yet, no. So it's on Prime, right?
Yes.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
don't have Prime, so that's where I'm like, well, am I gonna have to like start this up to we've just been scaling back on a lot of purchases this year for no reason whatsoever.
None
Um
whatsoever. Yeah.
None. And and so that was one of the things because we talked about it and we're like, are we really saving any money with this? Because if you just kind of like bundle your orders
Yeah.
together when you need to, it might kind of work out the same. But so many people have talked about the second season of Shining Happy People that I'm like, God damn it, I might have to actually, there's got to be
Yeah.
another way, right? You know,
It's worth the watch.
yeah.
I think you can do it now to where you only get the streaming. You don't
Oh,
have to get
okay.
the shipping because
Yeah,
it's cheaper.
yeah. Okay.
But anyway, there's a part of it like it's all focused on this thing called Teen Mania
Mhm.
that focuses on like the youth.
Yeah.
And there was a training session thing where they role played them being missionaries going into countries that are quote unquote hostile to Christianity. And
Right.
they had to hide that they were Christians.
Mhm.
And I think that kind of mindset influenced um, church or colleges like the one that I went to remove
Yeah.
any mention of Christianity in their official name.
Mhm.
And they even changed the names of some of the majors to where it wasn't obvious that they were missionaries.
Yeah, I wonder can you think of a good example? Like instead of maybe like
Oh, shoot, I cannot because that was not my
yeah,
yeah, that
yeah.
was not my major, so I
So
didn't pay attention as much. And
I,
it's been a minute.
yeah, I was just thinking like let's say you had a doctorate of theology, but you may change it to something like cultural impacts of whatever. I don't know. I could just see where
Yeah,
that's a
I do
bad
believe it was
bad.
something like that. It
Yeah.
was mostly only just the mission majors that were changed. Like
Mhm.
mine, I graduated with a degree in, well, a double major in preaching and church leadership and biblical
Mhm.
studies.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, still like 4 years, right?
yeah, 4 years.
Yeah. So, yeah. Did you find a wife at Bible college by chance?
No, I
Oh,
actually
okay.
married my girlfriend from high school,
Okay.
and that was terrible idea.
Uh,
So
you know what? There are no terrible ideas. They're just ideas, and then we find out later if they're terrible or not. So, I mean, maybe it was, but where so I kind of grew up in the Southwest Missouri area, and there was a Christian college down there that those of us that didn't go to the Christian college but still knew quite a bit about it, we would laugh because of people would kind of go for basically one semester or maybe 1 year because their main goal they were just there to find a spouse,
oh yeah,
and what better place could you go to? You go to school and like we're all probably here sharing like enough ideas and stuff like that that it wouldn't be a problem, so you got that out of the way, right?
mhm.
And then you just find somebody you like and next thing you know, that person drops out and
Yeah,
so
that's a common sentiment on Christian college campuses
mhm.
themselves. Like there was I don't know, this joke of like um, if you walked around this area of the college so many times with this person, oh, that you sealed the deal. And like, it's- honestly, looking back, is just kind of weird.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel that way about float trips. I mean, if you can survive a float trip with somebody that you're interested in, like a canoe or a kayak down
Mm,
a river or something like that, and especially if it's on a busy a busy day,
Yeah.
then yeah, your relationship is probably solid. So, so you do this, and then you get out and find a job, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, if you don't care,
No, go ahead.
so with the Bible college, that's actually whenever my deconstruction really started.
Oh, okay. How
Um,
so? How so? What?
in even though this was a relatively conservative Christian college, it the professors there were more open about uh some of the complications in the Bible
Mm-hmm.
than your average pastor would be.
Yeah.
And so I like first year, I think like the first day, I found out that there are multiple ways to interpret Genesis 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
Um, that's crazy.
Such
And
such as, I mean, yes, the traditional version, depending on, I'm
mhm,
not, I'm going to paraphrase a translation. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right?
yes,
Except for if you go with things that are a little closer to the Hebrew text. I do not read or write Hebrew, but I do have that a certain Bible app that is translated more, and it says, um, oh crap, you
like
probably know it off the top of your head, don't you?
when, like,
When,
yeah,
yes,
when God began to create the
yeah, when
heavens and the
God
earth.
began to create the
Yeah,
heavens and the earth, so it kind of implies that there were other things
yeah,
already existing, that it wasn't just uh, creation ex nihilo.
yeah. I
So,
mean, even with the like following verse, it says like the earth was already there and
mhm,
that was formless and void.
yeah, formless and void. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we don't get an idea of like creation ex nihilo. We get an idea of God basically taking what's already there and
Hmm.
changing it,
Yeah.
ordering it.
It's like Play-Doh that,
Yeah,
just kind of been floating around, and, let's do something with this. Let's make something.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
So the things that they were getting into was more of like the um, is a young Earth model,
Hmm.
where it was created like everything was created like 6,000 years ago.
Right.
Are the days literal days, or are they like epochs, like ages,
Yeah.
and stuff like that? Um, what like really started getting me is whenever I did start learning enough Hebrew to, as my wife says, like to be dangerous. Uh, but
Yeah.
I started like taking a look at like what the actual Hebrew says, and uh I got to, I think, Genesis 1:7. I could be wrong, but where it talks about God separating the waters from below to the
Hmm.
from the waters above.
Right.
And in a lot of like more conservative translations like the KJV, it'll just say like, oh, he created sky.
Hmm.
And I saw in Hebrew this word rakia,
Hmm.
and you know it has a connotation of like being hammered out, like derives from a root word of being hammered out. It's like
Yeah.
solid. It's a solid surface,
Right. Yeah.
and that's whenever I found out. I was like, oh, it is literally describing
A,
a
do-
solid dome
a
that's
dome.
keeping
Yeah.
the waters above. Like we read, like what's usually typically like pawned off as poetic language of the
Hmm.
windows in heaven, and it's like, oh no, they're like they believe there were actual openings
Hmm.
in this dome that rain was able to come down from,
Yeah.
and that started getting me to wonder, like, okay, so we know that's not true. So
But how do
clearly,
you know it's not true? Can you
well,
prove that it's not true? I mean, maybe God in his infinite provisions, allowed for this. This is the conversations I had at the very end of friendships, because I had a good friend but he was deeply religious, and I was like, what, a dome, really,
yeah,
and tire, and I mean, would go through these things, and he would have lots of excuses. And I'm like, this is not a good argument to try to sell me to stay in this thing, because I'm like, these are terrible. These are like you're just making up the rules. You're
Yep.
shifting goalpost, all this kind. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was just like the whole library of cognitive biases being thrown to try to make sense of this. And it, it at that point I was already like not believing anymore, and
Yep.
I'm just like, don't you see what I see? And the answer is
Mm-hmm.
no. So what was it like for you whenever you first thing, Genesis 1:1, if that was the first thing or something else? What do you remember how you felt like internally with this? I thought I knew the
Yeah.
basic stuff, and then we can't even get past the very first verse, and now I'm had some things turned upside down.
At the time, I was actually excited.
Yeah.
Um, and I still have this today because, like I've been 5 years out of Christianity. I still study the Bible like
Yeah.
every single day. Get into this, but yeah, at the time it was excitement.
Hmm.
I didn't see it as an issue for my faith at the time, because it just disillusioned me to the doctrine of inerrancy. Of
Hmm.
like, okay, well, clearly, the Bible's not inerrant, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you know Christianity's false. It doesn't mean that God isn't real.
Hmm.
And so that took quite a bit longer
Yeah.
for me to get there. But that's what started me like really questioning, like starting to um, just deconstruct what I had before, which was more conservative, more fundamentalist version of Christianity, and
Hmm.
really opened my eyes to, okay, there's different ways of looking at this. Um,
Hmm.
and even on an ethics and moral aspect, even this conservative Christian college um, challenged me to see people that were different from me
Yeah.
in another light. I started having a lot of compassion for people in the LGBTQ
Hmm.
community. Um, and yeah, so wherever I did end up getting a job, which was at my home church,
Yeah.
that got me into a lot of trouble.
Because you're what? Uh, Such as? Go ahead. I won't put any
Oh
words
yeah.
in your mouth. Go ahead. Tell me how coming from having biblical inerrancy shaken got you in in trouble at your home church.
So the first thing was my hiring on interview. They didn't want me, like, my degree, my specialty was in like being a lead pastor. I was
Hmm.
not trained to be a youth pastor.
Yeah.
But that's what they wanted me to do
Hmm.
was to be a youth pastor. I was like, okay, well, I can use this as a stepping stone
Right.
to go further. Well, they had me sit down for an interview with all the elders, and it was more of a formality than anything because
Hmm.
my grandfather became an elder of this church as well, um and I you know they knew me, and so they just assumed, well, you definitely share our same values.
Right. Yeah.
And like I remember handing the pastor my resume with my beliefs and everything on it,
Hmm.
and he just like tossed it and it's like, I don't need to read this. I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah. Are you sure? I've been gone, so I've been learning other things.
Yeah.
So
So we sit down, and he says, okay, we really want you to start talking to the kids about evolution and Genesis so that we
hmm.
can combat the get them prepared for high school when they start learning about evolution, and
Yeah.
to like curb them from you know accepting that, and that challenging their faith.
Hmm.
And I'm sitting over here, at the time a evolutionary creationist, because I had gotten to the point where it's like, okay, I think that you know evolution's true, but God did it.
Okay, right.
And
So, I kind of went in that route. I mean, I didn't know a lot about evolution at all,
yeah,
but I got to the point where it was kind of hard to like fully buy into the idea of, you know, we made all, we're he made all this stuff, and then I mean, again, you start going down the rabbit hole about like, well,
yeah,
how did the penguins get to Antarctica after the flood and all this other kind of stuff,
hmm,
and so you get to the point where you're like, maybe God did start the evolutionary process, and it's all part of the divine plan, and
yeah.
makes it easier to swallow, I think, if you're struggling with inerrancy, that's for
Oh,
sure. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Um, but so I just like I don't tell him like what I actually believe because I felt like I was not safe to say that.
Right. Yeah.
um, so I just say, okay, what do you think about me teaching the kids multiple versions, like multiple ideas of how to read Genesis?
Yeah.
Um, that way that they are prepared, like whenever they, you know, uh, hear about like challenges, like that
Hmm.
they're able to still hold on to their faith and adapt to new information.
Right. I like that.
And oh yeah, like I feel like
As a
that's
concept, I think that would be a better approach, I
yeah.
think,
Um, long story short, I end up being banned from teaching Genesis. I could not teach like Genesis. I had to focus on the New Testament and
Okay.
Jesus. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah. I see.
Yeah.
All right. And how long did you do that?
Um,
Not being banned, being pastoral.
so I did a couple month internship before I was fully hired on,
Hmm.
but my actual job there was I want to say about 3 months
Okay.
because yeah, it was easily the worst job I've ever had. Like, oh, I got to see behind the curtain and oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I mean, whenever you come in and you're like, well, I've spent money on an education, I've spent
yes,
time, I've done a lot of time actually, because you don't just go to class, because it's also part of your faith. So
mhm,
you're involved in it, outside of that too. And then, you come and your first job, they're like, you're going to do it the way we tell you to, which is really not terribly different from any other job. But whenever it's so drastically different from what you had went to school for, I mean, if I showed up my job and they said, well, we would really like you to work on the HVAC, I'd be like, I don't know how to do that.
mhm.
that's not my area. It's not what I studied. So, um, so after 3 months, what happens?
So the last straw for for me was uh we my youth group it
Hmm.
was like I want to say about 6 kids um were invited to a revival
Yeah.
and and I was like okay cool sounds good like it was orchestrated by the lead pastor
Hmm.
and we were getting ready to go and he pulls me aside and says hey I want you to leave 2 of the kids here because I think that they would be a distraction.
Hmm.
And it was 2 kids that I know that one was, no, I think both were diagnosed ADHD.
Oh, okay.
And what's hilarious is that they were not my trouble kids.
They were the good kids, huh?
Yes, they were
Yeah.
the good kids.
Yeah.
They did not like. Do I have issues with like getting them to pay attention sometimes? Yes,
Hmm.
but they were well behaved.
Hmm.
The one that gave me problems was his son.
Shocking.
Oh yeah. Um, but anyway, so I tell him like I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
You're one, you're excluding these kids. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And also, we at the time we had counting him, me, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife,
Hmm.
and I think we had, yeah, two other volunteers. We had as many volunteers as kids.
Yeah, so should be well taken care of.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, that ratio of responsible adult to, kid is 1 to 1, right? I
yeah,
mean, you're good to go. So,
easily. And it's like I told him, like, if there's a problem, we can take them outside. Like we can,
mhm.
like, it shouldn't be an issue. And at first he said, "Well, it's your decision." I was like, "Okay, then they're going."
Yeah.
And he overrid me. Uh,
Oh,
so we get to the place. I tell my wife about it on the way,
yeah.
and she's livid.
Mhm.
Um, as am I, but uh, it's hilarious. If you first meet her, she's the sweetest person.
Mhm.
You piss her off, like, oh my gosh. Um,
Well, what's the old saying? Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, that type
oh
of
yeah,
thing. So, and for her, it wasn't even like a personal scorn. She was just mad about the injustice to
yeah,
somebody else. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So we sit down at this place, and she confronts him like straight away and
Awesome.
asks him like,
It's
"Hey,
rock and roll.
why did you do this? Why are these kids not here?"
Yeah.
And he, in short, says like, "Hey, this was my decision. If you don't like it, you can leave." So we did.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Wow.
we had I put in essentially my 2 weeks notice immediately, and then
Hmm.
um, like they did a whole like brought me up about in front of the congregation, and he controlled the narrative of like, oh yeah, like we're partying amicably and all this stuff. Hand me the microphone and it's like, is there anything else that you want to add? And I was like, no, I think you covered it.
Yeah.
And I think from that, like my grandparents told me, like people continuously ask them, did something happen?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's we've some of the churches that we attended in the last 7 or 8 years, every once in a while there'd be a situation happen where somebody changes either positions in the church or they leave, and then there's not a lot of transparency, which only makes you go, I wonder what if something happened. I
mhm,
get it, not everybody's going to stick around forever, but it does make you wonder. And there was certainly a couple of different instances where now you're making me wonder if, like, where are those people today? Are
mhm,
they out getting their full tattoo sleeve because they decided that they're rebelling, and because of, they got kicked out because they learned some new information or whatever. I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe I should do a little Facebook stalking, see if I can figure out where these people are at these days.
always a
uh
fun pastime.
yeah, it is. So what happened after that?
So after that, I still remained a Christian, but I started working at factories and stuff because I was uh, trying to do ministry that doesn't pay
Yeah.
unless you're very crooked.
Well, a lot of, especially small churches, are bivocational for minister positions, right? Like you do
Mhm.
that, but then you probably work at the somewhere else, just anywhere else, because, like you said, it doesn't pay until you get into the big leagues, like the
Oh
Joel
yeah,
Osteen,
yeah,
uh,
um,
level.
yeah, and so I started doing factory work, but I'm still like studying and stuff on the side. I'm
Hmm.
wanting to maybe do a church plant, to do a more progressive church,
Hmm.
myself in like the same area because I knew a lot of people in my friend group that uh well at the time I thought that they were still Christians. Afterwards, I'm pretty sure they were just saying that they were Christian because I was. But
I see. Yeah.
because after I came out, like it's like, oh yeah, we were
Yeah.
wondering when you'd come around. I'm like, oh wow, okay.
Thanks for the help, guys.
Um, but anyway, while I'm doing that, I'm like we're church shopping after uh we get married and stuff, and
Hmm.
we're not really finding a lot of good churches, or the ones that we do find are like an hour away. Um, and then COVID hits,
Hmm.
and well, right before COVID, I'm doing in-person D&D stuff, and ironically, the guy, the old youth pastor of that church, he had deconverted years ago,
Okay.
and he became one of my D&D players. And during that time, like BLM was going on,
Right.
and I was being kind of vocal about that on Facebook.
Hmm.
Uh, and he asked me offhanded, so what about those passages in the Bible that endorse slavery? And at first, I like give him the very cliched, "Oh, it was like it was different back then, or it was
Hmm.
different kind." And he was like, "Oh no, like I think you should look into this."
Yeah.
And he sends me some videos by Matt Dillahunty,
Hmm.
and I watch those. I start digging in myself, and I'm like, "Oh shit, it does." um, and like for your audience, of like it's very clearly and explicitly endorses debt, sex, and chattel slavery.
Hmm.
In the Old Testament, but also in the New Testament, like there's no condemnation of
No,
slavery anywhere. If
never.
anything, the authors are adopting Roman ideals of slavery
Hmm.
and reinforcing them.
Yeah.
But so that gets me to like really starting to question my faith. I start looking into, okay, I need to just step back from everything and
Hmm.
really look at this and see if I have a reason to believe this
Hmm.
at all. And well,
But
I
wouldn't that go along with progressive Christianity? I mean, the mentality of
mm,
the thought process behind, well, that was in the past and people were different and God's interaction with them. I realize that ends up getting you more toward a path towards dispensationalism.
yeah,
Uh, but we don't have to talk about that. But wouldn't that kind of like almost be go in line with how you were headed anyway, but yet it seems like that wasn't enough. You were still bothered
y-
by the
yeah.
text.
At the time, like for about a year, I essentially became like almost, I don't know, I don't know what I could label myself as.
Hmm.
I was really starting to be skeptical about the Bible.
Yeah.
Um, but I also, like at my work, I started listening to audiobooks on um like just by black authors about anti-racism and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And one author, Ibram X. Kendi,
Hmm.
has a book called Stamped from the Beginning, and it
Okay.
talks about the history of racism uh, in the Americas
Yeah.
and just how linked together um, the white Christian church was with what happened to black people.
Hmm.
Just really hit me. And I've followed this one organization, the Equal Justice Initiative, and they post stories about people who were lynched.
Mm.
And one really hit hard for me was this woman, Mary Turner. Her father, or not father, geez, her husband was lynched. And whenever she spoke out about it, um, and like I think she threatened lawsuits and everything. Um, they grabbed her and she was pregnant, and they tied her to a tree, set her on fire, cut her open, stomped her unborn baby to death, and
Mm.
then shot her full of holes. And it just clicked to me of like, if there is a God, they were seemingly apathetic to the fact that slavery was endorsed in their name,
Mm-hmm. Mm.
and that endorsement led white Christians to justify their practices
Right.
later on,
Yeah.
which in turn led to the creation of racism and segregation and all this evil.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I was like, okay, this God is either too weak to do anything, uncaring,
Right.
or doesn't exist.
Right.
And it was at that point I was like, even if they're there, I don't want anything to do with them.
Yeah.
Like, I can't justify myself worshiping that kind of being that is apathetic at best towards suffering.
Yeah. Oh, I really think we get robbed quite a bit by not being told those stories, like
Yeah,
the really, really bad stuff.
yeah,
If we have to be confronted with that about the reality of the past I mean, not that not that it's gone away necessarily, but it does happen, and it did happen, and I mean, there's so many stories that I'm still learning about.
yeah,
I don't particularly find race to be a very intelligent position to hang one's hat upon.
yeah,
Like if you're a racist, like it does seem to be like literally the dumbest thing that you could possibly, um, be angry about another person for. I could think of tons of other things other than the color of someone's skin that you had no control over, right? And
yeah,
doesn't reflect their character at all, like that, not by default. And so uh, I just wish that we would talk about these stories and that you wouldn't have to, go
yeah,
through such a journey just to find something basic out and then to have it open your eyes to the Bible and even our laws and stuff like that. And like I mean, I didn't know what redlining was, for instance.
yeah,
And then whenever I moved to Kansas City, and then you start diving into the history of redlining in Kansas City itself, and then all you got to do is just drive around the city and it makes sense. Like you get it, right? Like, oh, there's a reason why there's sections that are less prosperous than others, and it's
yeah,
because they were set up that way, all because of racism.
yeah.
And
And we still feel those effects today.
still, and will for a
And
long time. So,
yeah, and I know you don't like to get overly political on the show, but of course, now our president is trying to whitewash like
yeah.
museums that
Mm-hmm.
are uh trying to preserve that history.
Right.
And like, I posted on Threads like the only reason to whitewash slavery is because you want to do it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, it's yeah. I part of my deconstruction also read this book. It's called "How the South Won the Civil War."
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Uh,
But it probably, I'm going to guess more about ideology
yes,
than
yes,
yes.
because after the Civil War, of course, like Lincoln was assassinated, and his vice president, who was um, a racist,
Mm-hmm.
um, came into power, and like so, there's that. Uh, recon Reconstruction of
Yeah.
the South was abandoned eventually,
Mm-hmm.
and movements like the Daughters of the Confederacy were like lobbied to have control of like what was put into our textbooks,
Mm-hmm.
and
Great.
just stuff like that. And like there's a reason why whenever you see MAGA you see Confederate flags,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
like because that
Or
is the
or
type of
more,
people.
or more, right? I
Yeah, or
mean,
more.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, don't get me started on that quote unquote Roman salute.
yes. Yeah. Well, we all know what it was. So, I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
those with a brain. But I don't want to go down the insult route.
yeah, fair.
quick side note. Have you come across this YouTube channel called The Enemies Project?
I have not.
Okay, it's interesting because they get two very opposing people
Hmm.
viewpoints. Like I think I saw progressive liberal and MAGA, and
Hmm.
they're two people in a room with a moderator having a conversation, and it's actually like no different than what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
It's very very interesting. Uh, that You should check it out. The Enemies Project.
It sounds
Uh,
something similar to like what Jubilee is, but
yeah, I do
I
feel
like
like
that. Yeah, I like
Jubilee's a
that
little more
format of,
performative,
yeah.
versus this is truly, it feels like a discussion where they're trying to share perspectives. Um,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say is I like that format better, where it's
mhm.
just one-on-one talking.
Yeah.
I feel
Although,
like you get a lot more done that way.
yeah. Although the Jubilee thing is entertaining, yeah,
Yes.
for a certain subset of nerd like you or I, that we're like, no, this is great.
Yeah.
Um, All right, so you got to this point where you realized that the Bible never condemns slavery, and
Not only never
then
condemns, but fully and
yeah,
explicitly endorses it.
endorses it with instructions. And
Yes.
um, yeah,
I yeah, at that point, like wherever I deconverted, I was at work and I
you're at work when you
yes,
had the moment.
yes,
Yeah.
my job, we tempered glass in a furnace, and
Oh
my
yeah.
job is literally I sit in a air conditioned box and
Hmm.
stare at glass all night long.
Yeah.
And on a good day, that's all I do. And so I just listen to podcasts like yours,
Yeah.
audiobooks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But on a bad day, that glass breaks and I have to run in and
Oh,
clear molten sharp glass off of a conveyor.
that's
So
hot, right? That's
very,
your yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
you're sweating buckets by the time you get done doing work and stuff like that. So
especially in the summer. But
yeah.
anyway, so I get a lot of thinking done there as well, and that's when it
Mhm.
clicked for me. And um, weirdly, I I panicked at first, but then I started to feel a great sense of relief of
Mhm.
like I had all this stuff on my shoulders of feeling like since I was called to ministry, it was up to me to save the world essentially. Especially like during like as a progressive Christian during the first Trump administration, I was seeing all that was going on. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
I need to fix this.
Yeah.
And wherever that fell off of me, I was like, it's not up to me.
Mhm.
Like I don't have like Christians say all the time, like, oh, without God you don't have a purpose. It's like it's actually
No.
very freeing
Yeah. Yeah.
because you get to make your purpose. You get to decide
Mhm.
what it is you do with your life.
Yeah. I
And
I think it's freeing and more fun,
yes,
honestly. Um, Rather than being trapped in some sort of weird box where you're constantly searching for purpose, you know, I'm going to
yeah.
bypass that and I'm just going to go do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or feeling like you're shoehorned into like one thing. Like this is your purpose. This is the only thing that your life
Right.
is valuable
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
And um so yeah, like and so now I can just do the right thing. I can oppose fascism and all these things because I want to and I know it's the right thing to do.
Mhm.
And it's no longer just up to me. It's up
Right.
to all of us.
Right.
Um but coming with that also was, of course, the fear of, oh no, I might lose all my friends, all my
Mhm.
family. And as we said before, thankfully, I found out that the vast majority of my friends were atheists anyway, or like somewhere on the spectrum of
Right.
unbelief.
Yeah.
Uh,
You just didn't know it, so
yeah, pretty
yeah.
much. Um, it's a little embarrassing because like a lot of my D&D games in high school were very linked to Christianity because I just could not get outside that box.
Right.
And so looking back, I was like, my gosh, I ran some terrible games for you guys and you just put up with it.
I mean, honestly, good friends, right? Like they
Yes.
were willing to stick it out with you, even though they had different beliefs. And that's the thing about if you're in uh, probably any religion, not just Christianity, and then you leave, and then you find out that your friendship was not really based upon, you know,
Yeah.
being friends. It was based upon something else. And that's not really a friendship, I don't think, but
No.
I could be wrong on that. But um, oh, I want to go back to that moment because I had that moment too. And it's so weird. I
Mm-hmm.
don't I don't I don't have any other word to adequately describe what it's like to have such a strong belief for such a long period of time, and then you have this moment, and you would probably outside of this sphere call it a come to Jesus moment, but it is a moment where there's something in your brain that thinks possibly for the first time, and I like to make the statement that I don't think you're fully human until religion is abandoned, because you have to get to that point where you're thinking about the realities rather than the mythology, and then that starts the path to you know humanity, in a large way. Was it like that for you? I mean, did you you know were, did you cry? I mean, because I cried because of this weird, like, uh, switch that flipped, where I realized that, oh, I don't I don't think this is true, you know.
I don't remember crying. Not to say that I didn't, but also like the whole toxic masculinity bullshit of like,
Yeah.
oh, you don't cry, unfortunately, is
Mm,
very firm in me.
mhm.
Like I've deconstructed a lot of that, but I think
Mhm.
my body just still like whenever I cry is just like, okay, one tear and
Yeah.
you're done.
It's just all inside though. It's like,
Yeah,
you're crying without showing it. So
yeah, pretty much. There's
yeah.
definitely that, but yeah, yeah. Whenever all that fell away, I definitely did find a lot of freedom to start just exploring reality, kind of like you said. Like I didn't
Yeah.
like my beliefs were not shackled to this dogma
Yeah.
anymore. I could just freely explore. I could learn about evolution without having to latch it on to, oh, a god did it. I could
Yeah.
learn about, human sexuality and stuff without having to try to justify it.
Right.
Um, and just all these other things of it just was very freeing.
Yeah. You wanted me to put a pin in Dad went to jail.
Yes.
So,
Let's pull that one.
okay.
So, uh, I came out to my wife pretty immediately, and she was a little freaked out because she was the liberal
Mhm.
in our relationship starting out, and she's
Yeah.
like, "Oh no, I corrupted you," even though she was a Christian.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I
And
could see that.
but we're great. Like she says that I'm a better husband and father being an atheist than I ever was as a Christian.
I have heard similar comments.
Yeah.
So,
But anyway, I put off coming out to my family for a while, and her family actually still doesn't know. Because they help with childcare with my son, and
yeah.
we figured that would just complicate things, so we're just
Yeah.
putting it off.
So what do you just show up with a Bible in hand and oh, hi, here, just dropping the kid off.
Literally, they've had me lead prayers for family dinners, and
Oh,
it's just oh, it's so awkward. But I mean, they keep asking me, so I'm like, all right.
yeah.
I asked my wife afterwards, like, did I do a good job pretending? Like, did I sell it okay? um, but but with my dad, I came up to him
Mhm.
about it, and so and that was rough. Like at first, like he seemed to be kind of okay with it, but the more we talked about it, the more just he would say things that were pretty fucked up.
Mhm.
Um, I remember at one point, like I was telling him like how free I am, like what we were talking about before,
Yeah.
that I'm on this side of things. I feel like a better person because I'm free to love people unconditionally, truly.
Yeah.
That wherever it comes to plus people, I don't have to justify my acceptance and love of them.
Yeah. They're
I
human.
just love them because
Yeah.
they're human beings. They're
Yeah.
my friends and my family. And so we got into that, and he started equating. Um, sorry, I missed a thing.
Okay.
So backtracking. Growing up, I was shielded from what he did that got him into prison.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, in her words, talking to her recently, she said that she didn't want me to hate him. Um, I asked him. I actually moved into with him in high school because my relationship with my mother and living with her was pretty terrible.
Yeah.
And I asked him what happened, and time he said that so I have two older half sisters. He said that uh he admitted to molesting. Well, trigger warning, I guess a little late, molesting one of my sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And his words were, it was a one-time thing. She was starting to look like a woman, and um, he turned himself in immediately afterwards. Which that was a rough thing to digest, but in my head at the time, I was 13,
Mm-hmm.
and also with Christianity and everything, it was like, okay, well, you did your time, you've repented, you asked for forgiveness, so I need to extend forgiveness to you because God's forgiven you.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of accepted that, and that he had changed. In this conversation, he started equating um, LGBTQ plus relationships with what he did
Oh,
with
yeah.
molestation.
I
And
I've heard similar
yes,
arguments. Yes. So.
and I stopped him. And I was like, no, those relationships are between consensual adults.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to say that my sister consented. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I'm sorry, man. I know
uh,
that must have been brutal
yeah,
to
I immediately I
hear.
was like, no, minors cannot consent because even
Right.
in his version of what he told me that happened, she was at least a teenager, like she was
Mm-hmm.
an adult. Um, so that spurred me to start asking my mother and my sister um, what actually happened.
Yeah.
Um, so what they told me actually happened is it started when she was 8. Um,
Kind of hard to consent at 8.
yeah, it
Yeah.
lasted for 4 years,
Uh,
and
so it
it
wasn't
came out.
immediate. Yeah.
Yeah, and he didn't turn himself in. Uh, he admitted to my mother during counseling. Well, after they got home from counseling,
Mm-hmm.
because he was apparently having an affair, which I did not know about until I talked to my mom. Uh, and my mom essentially tried to kill him, uh, reasonably so.
Justifiable.
Yeah, and called the cops on him,
Yeah.
all that stuff, and she had to. Uh, she basically manipulated, but justifiably manipulated him to say like, told him like, "Hey, I'll forgive you if you plead guilty and say everything that you did."
Mm-hmm.
And that's how that went
I see.
down.
Got it.
And so that just to bring into full context of this man molested an 8-year-old for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, his original sentencing was only 7 years in prison. He got that knocked down to 4 for good behavior.
Right. Yeah.
And the chaplain of the jail was springing him to take him to church.
I
And
see.
it's like, yeah, and it's like, okay, so no wonder you are thinking that what you did, like you're still trying to justify what you did because you didn't really like do much
Mm-hmm.
to take ownership of what happened. You
Right.
didn't. And I think a lot of that also, once again, comes back to Christianity. This whole, like, oh, I don't need to reconcile with other people. I don't need to take accountability with other people. I just need to be right with God. That
Mm-hmm.
if God forgives me, then I'm forgiven.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. Like that's just uh so heavy, and I'm sure it destroyed any trust that and probably that relationship. I mean, do you speak to him at all anymore?
So after I found that out, like I was, so we had stopped going to family get-togethers like during COVID,
Mhm.
because my wife has asthma. She was
Yeah.
pregnant during COVID,
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah.
uh, my son has well, he was born with a heart condition. He ended up having to have emergency heart surgery at six
Mhm.
months.
Okay.
So he has, they both have a lot of comorbidities whenever it comes to COVID. So we
Sure.
were
Yeah.
very
Very
careful.
cautious. Yeah.
And we were actually shamed by some members of my family about that. Saying like, "Oh, you're letting fear rule your life." I'm like, "I'm sorry.
Faith over fear, my friend.
Yeah, like I'm being like reasonably cautious. Like
Right.
it's a bunch of bullshit." Also, the fact of like my wife is an ER nurse. She
Mhm.
was working during COVID in an
Oh.
ER,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the gall of them calling us cowards whenever
Mhm.
she was on the front lines of that.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
um,
Shut your hole.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so we had stopped going to family get-togethers, but we told our family, "Hey, you can come visit us. Just wear a mask." They pretty much, like most of them, never did.
Wow.
My dad has seen my son, I think, about a handful of times.
Yeah.
Um, like even after like COVID died down, and like we extended the invitation, like, "Hey, like anytime that you want to come visit us or something, text, call, whatever. Like we're busy, but like we'll make time."
Mhm.
Um, and it just really wasn't a thing. They came up after Christmas to give my son his presents and stuff, and uh, during that, um, it was before I had really started talking to my mom and my sister. But after, after the conversation I had with my dad, coming out to him, and I had offered to send him videos, um, so we could continue talking and stuff about
Sure.
stuff.
Yeah.
And I had sent him Forrest Valcai's the first edition of his Sex and Sensibility video,
Right. Mhm.
um, and a couple of videos by Dan McClellan, because it's like, oh,
Mhm.
he's a Christian, but he's a critical scholar,
Mhm.
and we can talk about the stuff that he's saying. And so during that like little get together, I asked my dad like, "Hey, have you like watched those videos? What do you think?" And he immediately was just like, "Oh, well, that one guy said that we're animals and we're not animals." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he's just very just coming off as irate, and he had asked to talk to me outside. And while we're trying to talk outside, my grandfather and my stepmother were uh, somehow got on the subject of homosexuality and were bad talking gay people from my wife, and essentially she ended up like kicking them out.
Yeah.
And
Good.
yeah, uh,
Yeah.
so that's how that left off. And it's been 3 years since then. I never told them I wanted to go no contact.
Yeah. It just happened.
It just happened.
Yeah.
And I did not talk to him again until this week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just because my son just turned 5. We got him some Star Wars Legos, and
Awesome. Yeah.
I have a huge Lego collection
Yeah.
and some other toys still at my grandparents' house,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to get those for him.
Yeah.
So I was texting my dad, and I was like, "Hey, is the invitation for me to come get my shit still open?"
Yeah.
And he said yes.
Yes, please come get
Yeah.
That's how
Uh,
my dad was anyway. Are you going to come get your Transformers? I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. So
yeah. But it's been weird, strained, like all
yeah.
text, but very like I found out like through the grapevine that my grandfather has cancer like months ago.
Oh, sorry.
Um, I've never had a great relationship with him, and during all of this, I found out that he was one defending my dad, like what he did, even to the point of saying that he essentially did similar stuff when he was younger.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I just don't really feel anything
Yeah, no doubt. Uh,
whenever that comes to that. So Um, anyway, he texts me and is like, by the way, I have bad news. My dad has cancer. I was like, that's a weird way to phrase that because
yeah.
I had a nickname for both my grandparents growing up. I called him Pa.
Mm-hmm.
And, he didn't say, hey, Pa, or your grandfather. He's like, my dad has.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
I was texting him, I was like, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope his
Yeah. I'm
treatments go well.
sorry to hear about your dad. Yeah.
Yes. I'm
Oh,
trying to be cordial at least until I get the Legos.
yeah. Do you think I'm going to segue?
Yeah, no.
Do you think that all of this is because religion is a mental illness? All right, let me
Yeah,
define what I
yes,
mean by that. Okay.
absolutely.
We had a couple of people come into work from other states this week for meetings and stuff, and they reported back that on Friday they said, I think I caught a cold or something on the plane. There was a couple, both of them. They were going to two different places. They got a little cold. Okay,
Mhm,
so when I think about a mental illness, I think you can have varying degrees of, or like illness. Let's just say illness.
yeah,
You could have cancer. You could have pancreatic cancer, which is
mhm,
very very high mortality rate. Or you could have a cold, right?
mhm,
And so I tend to think of religious belief as a type of infection.
mm,
That, and so whenever you say mental illness, I realize that phrasing is probably accurately triggering because there are people with mental illnesses that are struggling to get with that in their day-to-day life, and I kind of don't mean it that way. I mean it more like
mhm,
the cold, the virus. I got this thing, and how do I get out of it? And and so it does. My experiences on social media is not. I get that that's not representative of the whole world. However, I have had similar discussions in real life with the same talking points, and it's so weird because now that I'm on the other side of it, and you probably see this too, you see parroted talking points
mhm,
that are usually, I don't know, they're like half Bible verses or just half dogma stuff that they've
yes,
been taught, or from organized campaigns to fight against things like a culture war issue like
yeah,
evolution or LGBTQ plus. They're just talking point, and then they start to all sound the same, and
mhm,
then I'm like, you guys are not well because you're all infected with the same illness, the same virus or whatever. I don't know what your take on that. It does.
mhm,
It, you and I were brought up in it, so we
yeah,
have indoctrination that gets to fall prey to that.
mhm,
And then I'm just struggling, I think, right now because when you deconvert, you really want other people to see what you see, or
Yes.
at least, can I have a voice? Like you said, you shared some videos, and I mean, I'm surprised that you actually got somebody to watch your videos. I sent some links out, and I never even heard back. So I'm pretty sure that the moment that I said, well, I've come to the conclusion that I no longer believe, and I guess that label that gets applied to me is atheist,
Yep.
and it was just like they could no longer talk to me anymore, um, logically.
Yep. And to be fair, he said that he like as soon as Forrest said that we're animals, he stopped watching.
Hmm.
As far as I know, he didn't watch any of Dan's
Oh,
videos.
okay, yeah.
But yeah. So and just for the audience, neither of us are mental health professionals. So
Oh,
take
yes. No, no.
everything with like
With grains, tiny, the mustard seed of, is that the smallest? Never mind.
I was
A
gonna
mustard
say
seed of doubt.
bags, like maybe dumpster fulls of salt. Like um
Yeah.
because the you know
Quarries of,
yeah.
however they get salt. I don't know how they get salt. But
So the reason why I push back on labeling religious belief as mental illness is like twofold. One is it's often used as a pejorative.
hmm.
Not necessarily saying that that's what you're doing, but it is used quite a bit in our quote unquote community in the
Yeah.
atheistic world.
Yeah.
You have some people who are in the angry atheist phase, let's say,
Yeah.
and they uh, they just want to lash out, and
Hmm.
they see that as pejorative, and that's extremely harmful for the mental health community of
Yeah.
people who are suffering from mental illness. It's just like whenever a mass shooting happens, and everyone immediately is like, "Oh, they were mentally ill." And it's
Hmm.
like, "I'm
No, they were
sorry."
probably white though.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sorry. There's plenty of us that are diagnosed with mental disorders
Oh,
that
sure.
don't go out and, shoot up a school.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's not the sole thing that's going on.
Hmm.
You know, basically just saying, like, people with mental illnesses have historically and continue to be demonized.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I
like,
know.
our current head of Health and Human Services is
Hmm.
actively demonizing people with ADHD, autism, all that
Yeah.
stuff. So there's that aspect of it of like language is powerful, and so I think it's important to be careful like how we use it.
Yeah.
The other thing is I don't think it's accurate. Um, with like I did dabble a little bit into mental health. My original major was in counseling,
Hmm.
and then after whenever I got divorced in the middle of college, I had a mental breakdown. I changed my
Oh,
majors.
yeah.
And but anyway, so mental illness, mental disorder is essentially where what's going on in your head is disorder. It makes it to where you cannot function in normal society, essentially.
Yeah.
Um, like there are certain criteria that behaviors have to meet in order to be diagnosed. And
Hmm.
so with that, because like, nothing's perfect, you might have someone that has a lot of symptoms for a mental disorder, but they
Hmm.
come just shy of being
Hmm.
diagnosed.
Yeah.
And so they might not be diagnosable like obsessive compulsive, but
Yeah.
they have obsessive compulsive tendencies,
Hmm.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
In any case, so in the mental health community, you have like the DSM, like criterions and stuff for diagnosing mental health, and they do cover religiosity, delusions, and stuff like
Hmm.
that in the DSM. And essentially, you have just regular religious belief
Hmm.
where you're buying into a set of beliefs, and that's what you believe. And there's
Right.
there's a spectrum whenever it comes to how bought in you are. Like you have plenty of people that are cultural Christians that just go about their day normally. It doesn't
Yeah.
really affect them until Sunday morning.
Sure. Yeah.
And then you have people that are like very bought in and like it's almost as if they live in a different world.
Uh, that's usually the ones I'm talking
Yes.
about.
But even
Particularly the
then,
street preacher types.
yeah. But
Yeah.
even then, it's not necessarily diagnosable delusion
Yeah.
because the key is with a delusion type disorder, there is something that is crossed in their brain to where
Hmm.
they cannot overcome this without some sort of external
Intervention. Yeah.
intervention. It is disordered. Like they cannot like change their thinking
Yeah.
versus someone who does not have that are able to like engage with evidence. They might
Hmm.
just not want to. They might
Yeah.
be very resistant to it,
Yeah.
but they are capable of existing in reality and changing their
Yeah.
mind.
And that's a fair distinction because I certainly know plenty of intelligent people, very, very intelligent, that have deep religious belief.
Hmm.
And I would say that they're intelligent despite that, not because of it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like comes along for the ride, right? And then, yeah, to think that they're debilitated in it is certainly different, than like you said, a diagnosable problem. So that's a fair point.
Yeah.
I'll accept that.
Like,
I I am fascinated though. I'm fascinated by religion's hold on
mm-hmm,
people, and it doesn't matter where they're at in the world because um, there's some influence like wherever you're raised. More than likely you're. I mean, I was born into a house that had believers in it, so it kind of makes sense, and then
mm-hmm,
but I had good friends that were also born into their own faith, and they were raised in that, and then we're all against each other for what grand reasoning did we come to that our position was better than the other
mm-hmm,
person? None. Reality is like oh, so and so, he was raised Catholic, and I was raised Southern Baptist. My friend, he went to the um what was it, Bethel Church, where they spoke in tongues and stuff like that. So all three pretty different, um, but we all got along.
mm-hmm.
So there wasn't anything necessarily that we could point to say we did a lot of research and we concluded that our position was right.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm just fascinated by religion's infection of
Mm-hmm,
societies, and then what it does and how it permeates, and then really once you get a political leader that figures out, well, we can use this to our advantage,
mm-hmm.
then it's kind of we see that going on literally right now. So uh,
Yeah. What I think is going on there is like it's not a disorder like mentality. Like it's not mental disorder. Like,
yeah,
uh once again for the audience, some background. We had a little bit of a pushback conversation on threads, and I think this is
yes, we
where this is
did.
coming back from.
Yeah,
But like I said, like whenever we deconverted, we didn't get cured from a mental illness.
that's true. Okay,
Um,
fine. Jeez, damn it.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
So, but what was going on is like we were fed information when we were kids. We were
Uh-huh.
built this worldview, and that is how that colored our lens of how we saw the world.
Yeah.
And whenever we changed our mind, whenever we got sufficient evidence for us to change our mind, those lenses changed. And now
Hmm.
we see the world differently,
Right.
um, hopefully more clearly. And that's a lot of what's going on with a lot of people is like they have their worldviews, their beliefs. And whenever it comes to engaging in um, evidence, arguments that are contrary to your belief, it sends you into a fight or flight response.
Hmm.
And with that, it's hard to have an intellectual conversation where someone is in a fight or flight response. It's it's the same logic
Yeah.
whenever it comes to children, like why spanking doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like if they are in a heightened mental state where they are anxious. They're not thinking logically. And so inflicting fear on them is just going to increase that anxiety. You need to get
Right.
them to a point where they're grounded to where you can have that intellectual conversation with them. And
That's a great point because that's why I've heard it said that you can't really beat people that are like that. I'm not lumping. I don't want to lump only religious because I'm also see. I tried to make it not political, but I can't help but think of cult mentality. Let's just go with that.
yes,
You can't beat cult mentality with facts for some reason, which
yeah,
is it's I find that truly interesting. Because to me it was facts that helped bring me out. I
hmm
mean, I looked at things and I'm like, this does not compute. And then whenever I started learning more about like epistemology
hmm
and then reasoning and logic and really diving into that, I made my way out. I guess it's not on my own, but thanks to people like
yeah,
you mentioned Dillahunty and others, that were posting content, and you're like, well, I'll give them a listen, see what they have to say, and then at some point there's something in your brain that happens. And you're like,
mhm,
yeah, they actually kind of make sense,
yeah.
so
There's this one creator. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's genetically modified skeptic.
I've heard of him. I think I've watched a few of his things. Yeah,
He's
so
really good. He has a one video that talks about about that phenomenon of like facts aren't really what get people out.
yeah,
Like not really. Like
hmm,
it might be what tips us over,
yeah,
but we have to be set up in a position to even be willing to look at the facts.
hmm,
Like it's interesting that during COVID, whenever people were staying home, we saw a huge spike of people leaving church,
hmm,
leaving the faith. And I think that is probably because like meeting in churches is important to keep people in
yeah,
because you're having those communities, you're having those relationships, you are having those experiences
hmm,
um, that, by the way, also are manufactured by the worship team to
right.
heighten your
Yes,
emotions.
I know. I was on the worship team.
Oh yeah, ooh,
Yeah, yeah. I play guitar and bass and stuff, so did some singing. So
awesome.
yeah,
He also has a video like going into like how that's a manufactured experience. That's
yeah.
also really good. But anyway,
Okay, I'll check it out.
so like for me, I was able to um, start looking at stuff more critically because I'd stopped attending church.
Hmm.
It was in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we did have more time, so a lot of us had a lot more time to explore
yeah,
things. I mean, just having time available to
yeah,
you, I think, probably helped too. And if, like you said, if you have a reinforced environment, or you have your time taken away by things as simple as commuting,
yep.
maybe you don't spend any time thinking about stuff. But I do wonder what might have contributed. Was it that? Was it that they were people were at home, so they had more time? Was it that they saw the behaviors of some of their fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, and they're like,
I think
this
it's
doesn't
probably
seem very,
a number of variables. It's probably
yeah,
both and of like it
mm-hmm,
was both they were staying home and so they were distanced from that,
mm-hmm,
and also the behaviors of like with the rise of MAGA,
yeah,
that they were able to start looking at things more critically.
yeah. I had a discussion with somebody this week online because this person had posted a question. She said, "Atheists say something nice about Christians."
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't get around to replying to that. I meant to.
yeah. And so I flipped that, of course, and said, "Well, Christians say something nice about atheists." And
Mhm.
through our conversation, when I got to the point, I said, I think it's very interesting that we've gotten this far and you still haven't said a single thing other than everyone has value. And she's like, "Yeah, you caught me." And
Yep.
I was like, "Oh, I see. So you actually don't think that someone who's not a Christian has any kind
Mhm.
of value beyond having a pulse,
Yes.
you know?" And yeah, I didn't have any more to say after that, because that's that's not Christ-like at all, as far as I can tell. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, Christ did, or Christ, I don't, the character known as Jesus,
Mhm.
did talk about, like, if somebody, if you go and speak your message and it's not receptive, just shake the dust off your feet and move
Yeah.
on, and that's fine. I get that. Don't waste your breath if somebody's not really interested. It's kind of marketing 101, actually. But
Yeah.
um at the same time, we're talking about something deeper than hot pockets, as far as trying to get someone to have a dialogue about. And if you can't see somebody else as being having value, other than I'm alive, which is kind of the pro-life movement's whole position, um then we got a huge breakdown there that I
Mhm.
don't know what can be fixed. And I poked a little bit deeper on this person's Instagram. Like, she had some well, we're already in trigger warning territory anyway. So she had tried to commit suicide like four different
Mhm.
times, and then
Yeah.
coming to Jesus, helped bring her out of that. And if I were going to have a conversation with her on a level basis, I'd say, do you think that maybe community, having people that were listening to you, um, that truly were interested, that you stuck around, do you think maybe that had more to do with it than than religious belief? I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into that, and it's hard to gauge from a social post, of course, but
Absolutely.
um
I think that's also a very important aspect of it as well. It's like whenever people have like harrowing experiences and they attribute their faith of getting them through it,
mhm.
wherever you start getting them to try to question that, that's very difficult because then it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
okay,
not the fight or flight, right? I mean,
yeah,
this saved me. This kept me from
yes,
killing myself, and now you're attacking the thing that I attribute to being the thing that saved me.
exactly.
Even
Like,
though other religions also have similar people with similar experiences, so
yeah,
it's not not just Christianity.
yeah. And I'm sure like you've interacted with people that like found Christianity in prison.
Oh yeah, I've
Yeah, like
known
they're
people that
very
found
zealous.
Christianity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they're
yeah,
very
very.
zealous about it because
Yeah.
of that situation. And like
Hmm.
my dad is very resistant to it because in part, I think because without Christianity giving him that out, who is he?
Hmm. That's the scariest question, isn't it? Who
Now,
am
like,
I?
yes,
And
yeah,
yeah.
Christians always say like, "Oh, we just left the faith so that we could sin." And it's like, I'm sorry, if I wanted to just sin and not have consequences, I would have stayed a Christian.
I did find a good meme today that
Yeah,
it said exactly that at the top. It's like, oh, you just want to sin, and it said like my life of sin, and it was Skeletor with a robe on, sitting on a couch drinking a glass of wine, and I was like, yes, that's my life of sin now. I'm still going to work. I'm a dad. I got kids. Like, I care about them.
yeah,
Love my wife. I'm doing that shit. Which is the same shit I was doing before.
yeah,
So, still going to concerts. Still, trying to help people. I find a cause too that I'm interested in, and I focus some effort on that. I'm like, I don't really see a huge difference here, other than the tattoo that I have. I'll have to show you that later.
oh, nice.
That was always off limits, but after I deconverted, I'm like, kind of interested in a tattoo now. So,
Mhm.
that would be, but that's in the Old Testament, so I can just ignore it. As
Yeah, I mean, plenty of Christians do.
oh yeah, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I've seen some influencers, Christian influencers, which I swear that's just a it's just a grift. They're just using it to, make some cash. Because there's not a lot of atheist influencers getting rich. You know what I'm talking about? Because their
yeah,
numbers are all the way up in the tens or hundreds.
yeah.
Uh, you know.
They always accuse us of like, oh, you're just doing this for money. I'm just like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Are we getting paid? Where's all this money from Daddy Satan? Because I'm not getting it.
Yeah, you'll notice this doesn't have any sponsors. I'm paying for this out of my pocket. So, if I could maybe swing back,
Yes,
we won't. I want to be respectful of your time. I'm sorry. I think
I'm
we
good
went over a
for
little bit.
for a little while. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
With if we can come back to the slavery thing
yes,
a little bit, because it does tie into the that's in the Old Testament. I really hate that statement. I'm like,
hmm
it's almost. I'm like, if you're gonna say that, then you have to say that the New Testament is a new religion, that it's not a continuation of, Yahweh from the Old Testament, right? I mean, because
yeah,
the thing that a lot of Christians like to hang their hat on is the alleged prophecies that
hmm
Jesus fulfilled. And so I'm like, well, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, that's the Old Testament, and therefore slavery, that was done back then, even though you and I know that there's no mention of it in the New Testament, that,
hmm
and does give slaves obey your masters, that type of thing.
yes,
So they want it both ways. They
yeah,
want to like ignore that part, but then hold on to whatever clobber verses there
homosexuality,
are about
yeah, yeah,
homosexuality. you know um they'll probably rightfully acknowledge that public stonings probably weren't a great way to enforce punishment. I can't think of a worse thing, honestly. It's
uh,
just awful.
well, we're starting to see a rise of Christians wanting to bring stuff like that back. So,
Yeah, well, the same people that want that would probably end up being stoned almost immediately for any number of things that
oh yeah, but
they've done in their life.
they can be selective about
Exactly.
that.
And so I find it really frustrating,
Yeah.
because of that dichotomy that goes on in their brains. I mean, you just really have to
Yeah.
do some justification about. I'm like, well, can't you just admit that maybe you were taught racism? Is
Yeah.
that a possibility, that you were actually taught racism, and that
Mhm.
you're now using something that you told was good, um, whenever it's really not? And woe to you who call evil
Yeah.
good and good evil. I'm like, half the time I think the Bible's projection, where it's like that statement, woe to you who call evil good and good evil. I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, woe to you, the reader, who the
Yes.
believer. Or sometimes I have these thoughts about, like, maybe they were trying to warn us, like, oh, the fig tree wasn't in season, wink wink, like trying to let us know
Mhm.
about little things, like the writers were like, hey, this wasn't real, this is just a story, and then
Yeah.
somehow we've taken it. I digress. But yes, the slavery thing, because there were different rules, right, for Hebrew
Yes.
slaves,
Yeah.
because then you hear about the indentured servitude. You want to
Oh,
go into that a little bit?
yes.
Mm.
God. Okay. Um. so, um, you'll commonly hear Christians like say, "Oh, the slavery in the Bible, kind of like what I said, is not the slavery that we saw in the antebellum South
Right.
and with New World slavery."
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say, "Oh, the Old Testament promoted indentured servitude," which, by the way, is just a polite way of saying debt slavery. It's
Right.
whenever owes a debt to another person, and so they sell themselves or one of their family members into slavery.
Mm-hmm.
With Exodus 21, verses 1 to 11, that's where we see this. And this type of slavery is reserved for Hebrew men.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for Hebrew women, they, at least the ones that are sold and are used sexually, that we see also in this section, they are not allowed to go free. They
Mm-hmm.
are, uh, there's no like expunging of their debt. They
Right.
belong to the man that she was sold to.
Yeah.
Um, and weirdly, like that was sort of as a protection for her because in that context, once she was quote unquote deflowered,
Mm-hmm.
her value was basically non-existent.
Right.
Um, but obviously, from a 21st century like worldview, when we value women much more now, like that's abhorrent.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is sex slavery.
Yeah.
Um, and even in this section, there's an exception for the Hebrew men. that if they go into debt servitude, um, and they already have a wife, then they go out together after the debt is done.
Yeah.
But if while the Hebrew man is in slavery and his enslaver gives him a wife, technically it just says gives him a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and they have children, whenever his debt is free or is done, he can leave, but the woman and the children that resulted from that relationship are the enslaver's property.
And then isn't there a caveat about like if
Yes.
he wants to stay?
Yeah, it's like, but if he wants to stay with his family,
Yeah.
it technically says if he wants to stay with his family and if he loves his master, gross,
Yeah.
then he is to be brought to the gate and his ear is to be pierced with an awl.
Mm-hmm.
Basically like branding him as
Right.
if
Yeah, like
he's
cattle.
cattle.
I mean,
yeah, and he becomes a chattel slave along
Yeah.
with his family.
Yeah. So freedom, sort of, but not really. I mean, and that's for Hebrews. Now it's
Yes.
different if you're a foreigner, right?
Yes. In Leviticus,
non-Hebrew.
yeah, in Leviticus, we see a little bit of change. So as these laws are written, like they're not univocal, they're written by different people over time, and they're actually going back and changing, like making changes to these laws. So actually in Deuteronomy, we see a difference where women who are not used sexually are allowed to go free as well.
No.
So,
Well, that's
but
nice.
oh yeah, but in Leviticus, we start off with a clarification of like, hey, if your fellow Hebrews owe you a debt, don't treat them harshly like slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Treat them like a servant.
Okay.
Like a hired worker. And then it says in chapter 25, verses 44 to 46, but as for those that you may enslave, you may buy from the foreigners around you.
Right.
And those you can keep forever.
Mm-hmm.
The Hebrew word is olam, in perpetuity. Cottonmouth.
Yeah, I know it's a hard word. I know it's a favorite word. Perpetuity. There we go. Yeah.
I was looking for my water ball earlier. I made one and I lost it. And I was like, oh well.
Oh, no,
anyway,
sorry. Yeah.
They could be held forever, and their children as well.
Mm-hmm.
This is chattel slavery. This is akin to what happened to Black people in the Americas and throughout the transatlantic slave trade. There are differences because race was not a thing back then. There was an ethnic like understanding, but race wasn't a construct yet.
Yeah.
But there are overlaps.
Sure.
Another apologetic is that, well, these enslaved people had rights. They were not to be treated harshly. Well, that's completely ignoring Exodus 21, verses 20 to 21, where it, gives enslavers the permission to beat their slaves, and that as long as those slaves do not die after the beating immediately, that they survive for a day or two.
Yeah, I'm always bothered by the day or two. I'm like, can we not make a distinction? One day or two? Like you would think, if this was inspired by God, that we would have had a more definitive timeline.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
and it's like the point of it is to basically say like, hey, if the master outright kills an enslaved person, they're to be punished. And it's like, okay. And it's a little vague as to what that punishment would be.
Right.
It's not clear.
Yeah.
But it says specifically if they survive for a day or two, if it's essentially kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt of, well, you didn't kill them on purpose.
Yeah.
So we're going to consider.
I'm kidding.
Huh?
Yeah. I'm kidding. I'm just an accident. Sorry about that.
Oh,
yeah.
And so they are not to be punished because they are the enslaver's property.
Mm-hmm. Now, you want to hear my biblical conspiracy theory about all this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Here we go. So what was the sin of Sodom?
So, do you want me to give the actual reason
No,
or
I
the
want the
traditional reason?
I want the biblical reason for what does the Bible say that the sin of Sodom was?
In hospitality,
Two.
foreigners.
Right. So we need the pipeline. We need the foreigners so that way we can have the slaves. So that way we can continue slavery. It's
Mm,
you know what I mean. It's almost like it sets it up to be like we're going to get you a steady pipeline of
mm,
slaves that are going to be like given the stamp, you know,
yeah.
and you need to be hospitable to them because you never know when you need a good slave. Um, so I know it's a
So,
stretch. I get it. You know, I'm just running with it, but you
no, you're
know,
fine. Hospitality laws were very common in the ancient Near East,
yeah.
and like that was just like standard.
Hmm.
And they were be treated very well. And that's something that modern Christians, MAGA, could benefit from actually adopting.
Yeah.
That foreigners, like immigrants into your land, are actually helpful to your society.
Yeah.
Um, but like when it comes to these people that are being enslaved, like they're uh pretty much how it's laid out is like you're buying from those people. You're
Hmm.
buying from the foreigners.
Yeah.
Now imagine like if they have a debt to an Israelite, like I don't know exactly how that would have worked out. Like if they would have been treated as a
Yeah.
debt slave or if they would have been enslaved
Yeah.
as chattel. But
Yeah. I
I,
don't
I
know.
want to lean toward it's probably uh
Neither sound
decent.
great. I
No.
mean, you know, like we're already having discussions in modern society about wage disparity, just,
Hmm.
just, I hope I said that right. Uh,
Yeah.
Wage differences, and you know, and then wage slavery. Really, you know, is what we're talking about. You know, like in the United States, that if minimum wage kept up with inflation, it'd be around $50 or $60 an
Yeah.
hour. You know, and we got people griping that they want to raise it because there's a certain one side wants to say, well, at a minimum, it should be at least 15, which is still way low if you compare it
Yes.
to, you know, that. So, you know, that, and then whenever you have people at the top making, you know, seven figures, you know,
Hmm.
that's does seem like a form of, and I'm not to diminish actual slavery, but you know,
Yeah.
it's like a subset of slavery, if you will, in a large way.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, the 13th Amendment only outlaws slavery. Well, it does not outlaw slavery as a punishment for a crime. And so that actually led to, you know, why we see, um, well, our country has the highest amount of people that are in prison
hmm.
in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
And the reason why that is because it makes money.
Hmm.
Private
Yeah, a
corporations,
lot of
yeah.
for-profit prisons.
And
So,
that's what also is happening right now when it comes to the migration detention centers.
hmm.
It's about the money. A lot of people are making a lot of money off of what's going on right now. And the increased policing is just going to continue.
Uh-huh.
Because, yeah, of all that. Like, I actually have my own weird little conspiracy theory. I don't think, sorry that we're getting political again.
No, no, I mean, I think it's fine. I don't think you can always avoid it. You know,
Yeah.
it's not my main topic, and
Yeah.
that'll be obviously clear. But that doesn't mean that you can ever avoid it because you
Yeah.
can't. You know,
All
so
things are political, honestly.
oh,
But
they really are. Yeah.
but I don't think even though like we are uh saying that, you know, these camps are like associating them with death camps in Nazi Germany, I
Right.
don't think they'll be quite like that,
Mm-hmm.
only because having these people in there are making them money.
Yeah.
And I think the deaths that will come will be from neglect
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily from intentional. And that, honestly, like, it's still extremely horrible because
Oh
we're
yeah.
sequestering people, we're taking away their freedom, ruining their lives,
Ruined families. You
yeah,
know.
for a profit.
Right.
And it's like, what the hell are we doing?
You know, and this is the thing about the Bible that kind of like I occasionally quote from the Bible because, you know, I know it and sometimes a good verse fits, you
Yeah,
know. And, you know, the idea of worshiping money was always seemed pretty consistent, I think, throughout the Bible was like, hey, not such a great idea,
yep,
right? You know, and more and more when I look at America, I that's all I see. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't see actual worshiping of money as a god, but I do see the worshiping as this is the most important thing. You
Yes.
know that it's all that like hustle culture and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's like we gotta do what we can. We gotta get the Skrilla.
Mhm.
You know, and it
I mean, that's capitalism for you.
I
Like,
know,
it's
yeah. The capitalism doesn't have to be inherently bad, but if it doesn't have any guardrails, and you keep taking down guardrails,
yeah.
um,
My
like
personal
I,
opinion, I think it is just because, like, under capitalism, our value is only what we contribute.
mm-hmm,
We have to earn
it's
our
true.
living, earn our
Yeah,
right to exist, versus like a system that is more community based that it recognizes that, hey, I baseline, we all deserve to live. We
yeah.
all deserve to live in a comfortable life.
You and I have talked Star Wars and Star Trek,
Yes.
and I'm a Star Wars fan. Don't get me wrong. I
Yeah.
do love Star Wars. Yeah, and but the thing about Star Trek is that I think that what I like so much about
Mhm.
Star Trek, or at least from the older series, is how Earth turned out.
Yeah.
It's there's no money. People do what they want to. I know there's questions about, well, who would choose to be a janitor, but honestly, me and a guy at work, we've talked about how, like, it doesn't sound like such a bad plan to, like, just dig ditches, or not dig ditches, but mow ditches all day long. you know
There's
like,
also
I'm
the
gonna listen to a podcast, I'm gonna get edified, and I'm gonna be out, my air conditioned combine tractor lawnmower thing, and sounds like a good day.
yeah,
That doesn't sound so bad to me. Uh,
there's that, and then also like with the in an ideal world with the increase of technology with robotics and stuff, the more
hmm
menial jobs could easily go to that. And then if we actually valued human life,
hmm
then that would end up freeing us to be able to do things that we want to do, whether
Yeah.
it's pursue art, creativity, sciences, stuff like
hmm
that. But instead, because we're in this hyper capitalistic society,
hmm
those robotics are just going to take away people's jobs. And then those people are just going to, well, die because they
Yeah.
can't afford to live.
Or they're going to find something that probably pays a lot less, and then everything that they've had up to that point is going to be upended, and you see that happen a lot. I mean, it's something I always think about. Like, well, I wonder how long this ride's gonna,
Yeah.
you know, um, and I don't know. What do you think? Is there any hope for us?
So I think yes. My wife probably make fun of me a little bit because she sees me as the optimist in the
hmm
relationship.
I need some optimism. I think that's good. So that's why I asked.
Um, like I'm sure you saw on threads, like I'm DNFing, do not am not finishing the Bonobo and the Atheist.
Yeah,
Um, Not because it doesn't have good things, but just because like life is short and there's a lot of fluff.
a lot of fluff.
But
Yeah.
there is some good things in it of like
hmm
recognizing that we are a social species. We need each other to survive. And at our core, it's actually the opposite of what Christianity teaches. Christianity teaches that we are inherently evil
hmm
and that we need God to curb our evil tendencies. Whenever the reality is, at our core, we want to do good. We want to do good for each other because it feels good.
hmm
We evolved to be in community with one another, to take care of one another. And so we see an evolution of morality millions of years before religion even came on to the scene,
Yeah.
where our ancestors were taking care of family members and people within their tribe that were not like that had debilitating conditions, where they did not have teeth anymore,
hmm
where they were lame, and taking care of them. And it's
Yeah.
like that's a burden on them. And from a Christian worldview of like their straw man of survival of the fittest, they think, oh, well, if you're a burden, then you're just gonna we're just gonna leave you to die.
Yeah.
But that's not how reality plays out because we care about those people and that we we recognize, like, okay, if I was in that situation, I would want people to help me.
Yeah.
And so we help them
Yeah.
because we want a world where if we're in their shoes, we would be taken care of. And I think
Hmm.
that's where who we are at our core, but there are things that have been put in place that restrict it,
Yeah.
whether it's religion or ideologies like capitalism, where it curbs our natural tendencies and instead feeds on fear,
Yeah.
on our fear of the other, on our fear of not having enough.
Hmm.
And so we suspend our empathy. We call it a sin
Yeah.
because it keeps us from getting ahead, from surviving and thriving in capitalism in this very hyper individualistic society.
Hmm.
And so I think what we need to do, what we need to be going for, and this is especially true in the atheistic community, because what we lack is community.
Hmm. This comes
We,
up a lot, actually,
yeah,
in discussions, and I've said it a trillion times, and I'll say it one more time that though that was one of the best things that church offers you
yes,
is turnkey community.
yep,
Move to a new city, find your denomination, find one that maybe has good reviews or a nice Facebook page, and then just go. And then within a few months, you're integrated, and things are kind of more stable for you after you've moved to a completely new place. You've already started to build friendships, whereas within like the atheist community, because that's so broad, right? Some
yeah,
people are just like, I've never believed, I don't care. I know some people that have been never believed and are militant about that.
hmm,
Their angry atheist phase, whenever you said that earlier, it made me think about a couple of people that they've been atheists their whole life and they're angry still,
yeah,
and so they never left anything to be angry about. They're just angry about what they see on a regular basis. You know what
hmm,
I mean? And then I know some other people that like they're atheist and they just like back out of society. Like
yeah,
you would never know. They're just normal people. They don't have any kind of they don't have any real desire to like wake anybody up.
hmm,
Um, so but we do kind of suffer from community and frankly from sometimes being nice. We could be nicer,
yeah. I mean, there's
um,
definitely that.
you know.
I think also, like, whenever someone tells you they're an atheist, all you know about that person is that they don't believe in God.
Hmm.
And this kind of comes back to the dogma, the indoctrination thing, is
Yeah.
because there are plenty of atheists that are transphobic. There are
Hmm.
plenty of
Yeah.
atheists that are um, that still cling on to things that are contrary to reality
Yeah.
because they have not deconstructed those things.
Uh-huh.
There are atheists that are MAGA,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Hmm.
so that indoctrination, that cult mindset is not unique to religion. They don't have a
Hmm.
monopoly on it.
Oh, sure. And
And
I'm sure you've heard
yeah,
the argument about atheist. Look at all these atheist leaders or whatever that killed,
yeah,
millions upon millions, which I think is a terrible argument because I'm like, well, I could point to Christians, and then now we have to decide on a number to where the
yeah,
balancing, where it becomes good or bad, and that's why atheism needs to be separate from a worldview
yes,
because secular humanism is my
hmm,
worldview. People do have value, and if I see somebody suffering, I want to try to help them. I want to do what I can,
yeah,
and because what's good for them is also good for me, turns out. So
yes,
and good for society. So let's all help each other.
exactly.
Uh, you know,
Like,
I
I'm
don't
sure
think
you've seen.
Stalin was a secular humanist. That's all I'm saying. So,
No. Even if he claimed that label, he certainly did not, like, embody the practices, the beliefs
right.
of secular humanism of,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. And, but yeah, anyway, so basically what I was saying is, like, we need to come together as a community,
Hmm.
as human beings, as, um, people who share values. And that is how we are going to combat fascism, racism, all that is
Yeah.
us coming together as a community.
Yeah.
And yeah, having conversations like this, especially with people who disagree with us, is how we end up bridging that gap, I
Hmm.
think.
I
And
agree, and I think having a real conversation, like
yes,
you and I are virtual, but we're still talking, eye to
yes,
eye, face to face, just to some extent, even if it was just over the phone, that's still better than social media texting back
yes.
and because that's so
It's easier to dehumanize someone
it's
if,
frictionless.
yeah,
Yes, yeah,
like it's easier to like not consider them as a real person.
yeah,
Like people are very quick to just fire off like some of the most heinous stuff
oh yeah,
because like, oh, who cares? Like,
yeah.
you know, they'll.
I have had a couple of really heinous things said to me by Christians
Hmm.
that I would never say to another person ever
Yeah,
for any reason. And one caused me to leave just to get off social media for like a week and a half because I was so bothered by it. I was just like, not that I felt threatened, I was just bothered by that somebody would dare say that to
yeah,
me, and it was terrible. Um, but yeah, we do need to have more conversations and real ones, um, and then work on building an actual community. I don't know what that looks like. I've got a handful of, like, in Kansas City. I've shared this before, but there's this kcoasis.org. It's a secular. It's like church without church. They meet on
hmm,
Sundays and they have a speaker come in and usually talk on a topic. Forrest Valkai was one Sunday, and so I went and took my son, and my wife, and we enjoyed it. And then they have a local artist play, some of their songs. And then, there's some coffee and donuts, runs a couple hours. It's about building community. They have potlucks and they have bingo nights and all that kind of stuff. And so that's a good start, I think. I just wish
yeah,
it was closer because it's a little bit further away
hmm,
for me. So to get to it, and
absolutely,
I've heard people recommend like the Unitarian Church, but I looked at their website and their quote unquote statement of faith or whatever, and it still seemed pretty religious to me.
oh yeah,
But I know that there are people that go to a
hmm,
Unitarian church that are atheist and agnostic. So I'm going to try it one day. I'm just going to go. I've been once, but it was a long time ago, and I was a Christian, and
hmm,
so that was it. I just didn't know what I was walking into. And whenever they
yeah,
started singing "Let It Be" by the Beatles for the offertory hymn, then I was like, yeah, that's why nobody brought Bibles in. So you know, but that was then, and this is now, and I should go and check it out. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. So we'll see what happens.
I hear you. Yeah, for
But
me, like, um, there's not a whole lot of like an atheistic community in Knoxville. Like, there's,
mhm.
I think there's one that's got like a handful of people, like literally like 5 people.
Yeah,
Um, I've also taken a look a little bit at the Satanic Temple,
uh-huh.
uh, just because, like, for anyone who does not know, the Satanic
Yes,
Temple is an atheistic, like,
right.
organization. They do not actually believe in Satan.
Yeah,
Uh, so
and they use the imagery to be provocative,
yes,
and because I mean, now that is marketing 201. I mean, we're
yes,
we're doing something provocative, and we're getting you to pay attention because you can't help it. You can't help but look at this and say,
yeah,
"Oh, I'm mad." At least it made you look, right.
exactly. And they do good stuff when it comes to like fighting against like the
Mhm.
erosion and the separation of church and state that's happening. Of like, oh, you're putting up the Christian flag, well, you need to put up our thing. You're putting up the Ten Commandments, well, here's the statue of Baphomet that you also need to put up,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But for me, what I've just been doing is, I have a group of friends that we play tabletop role playing games with, and we have a monthly potluck where we get together, just play
That's
board games, and
nice.
like just us finding stuff like that
Mhm.
in our communities, I think is very important. And
Yeah.
also finding finding ways to connect to where and have deep relationships to where if one of us is in trouble, like we know that we can come together and help one
Yeah.
another.
Yeah.
Because especially if things continue how they are, the governmental social safety nets are going to disappear.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to come together and take care of one another.
Yes, I agree. We need a mutual aid network,
Yes.
both locally and larger too,
Yeah.
So that way, whenever you go and move to another city and you're not part of a church, you could tap into something and say like, well, where can I find a new home to meet other people, like-minded people, that even if would change my mind on my beliefs, that we could still, have some friendships,
Yeah.
make real friendships, and and maybe they're based upon something real and foundational like Star Wars Legos, right?
Yes.
I mean, you gotta have something solid to work as a foundation,
Yeah.
and I can't think of anything, you know, better as a foundation than Legos, honestly. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, both literally and figuratively. You can make a literal foundation, but yeah, well, I think that's our challenge, Andrew. I think we need to work on figuring out how we're probably gonna have to build this thing. I hate to say it,
Yes.
we're gonna have to build communities and a network of communities and a framework, so that way it can be duplicated. Planting the seeds.
Yep.
Um, I got so many Christian sayings I can just, and I know the kids, they got more. So, we could just write a dictionary of sayings, to,
Oh yeah.
planting the seeds for nobody. Uh, well, man, I think this wraps it up for me. I'm feeling pretty good about this. You good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
If you want me to come back on another time to delve more into slavery in the Bible or whatever, I know that we
Mm-hmm.
touched a little bit on the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm.
There's more in the New Testament that is very surprising that
Yes,
I,
I would
yeah,
like to get more into that. We'll call this OT, slavery discussion, and then we could do it again and talk a little bit more about the New Testament, because you're absolutely right. And I've heard some people try to argue against it in the New Testament, and I'm
yeah,
like, yeah, that's not there. So let's do that. Let's plan on a part two sometime in the future, and we'll dive more into the New Testament. What it says
yeah,
about
absolutely.
slavery.
Sounds
So
good.
so all right, man. Well, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.